Here's a shocking truth that might ruffle some feathers in the cycling community. The most famous mountain bike race in America barely contains any actual mountain biking at all. Welcome to the wild, oxygen-starved world of the Leadville 100, where traditional cycling rules get thrown out the window at 12,000 plus feet above sea level. This weekend's race is about to kick off what many consider the most crucial phase of America's off-road racing calendar. And trust me, the drama is already brewing. Let's dive into something that might surprise newcomers to the sport. America's off-road racing season stretches across a marathon 8 months of competition. While it doesn't quite match the grueling 10-month endurance test that road cycling's World Tour demands, it's still an incredibly demanding schedule that separates the wheat from the chaff. But here's where it gets really interesting, and where some purists might start grinding their teeth. The entire season has evolved into what's essentially a tale of two completely different worlds. The opening act runs from March through June, setting the stage for everything that follows. Then comes July, a month that's increasingly become nothing more than a strategic intermission, a calculated build-up period where riders fine-tune their bodies and minds for what's coming next. And what's coming next? August through October, the season's grand finale, where reputations are made and broken. At the center of this back half drama sits the Leadville 100, a race that's become so influential it's practically hijacked the entire second half of the racing calendar. Now here's something that might spark some heated debate in the comments. Is Leadville actually a mountain bike race, or has it become something entirely different? This high-altitude endurance test emerged long before the gravel cycling explosion took over the cycling world. Yet it continues to reign as North America's premier off-road challenge. The race predates the gravel trend by decades, but ironically, it shares more DNA with modern gravel events than traditional mountain biking. What makes Leadville so uniquely brutal, and this is the part that leaves European cyclists scratching their heads in bewilderment, is its absolutely punishing altitude profile. We're talking about 105 grueling miles, the dance between 9,180 feet and a lung-crushing 12,500 feet above sea level. To put this in perspective for beginners, most people start feeling altitude effects around 8,000 feet. Leadville laughs at that number and keeps climbing. But here's the controversial twist that has mountain biking traditionalists up in arms. This so-called mountain bike race features a measly 1.5 miles of actual single-track trail across its entire 100-plus mile course. Yes, you've read that right. Less than 2 miles of what most people would consider real mountain biking terrain. The rest? A mixed bag of pavement sections, gravel roads, wide double-track paths, and old mining roads that feel more like a punishment than a race course. This unique terrain profile has created something of an identity crisis. Traditionally, riders chose mountain bikes simply because they were the only machines capable of handling Leadville's notoriously rough terrain at race pace. But as technology has evolved and bike designs have become more sophisticated, we're witnessing a fascinating equipment revolution that's dividing the cycling community right down the middle. The course itself tells a story of calculated suffering. Picture this. Columbine isn't just a climb. It's a 6.7-mile monster, but maintains a relentless 8.7% grade, sitting like a menacing giant at the course's halfway point. But don't think for a second that conquering Columbine means you're home free. Next up is Powerline, a deceptively challenging section that shows two completely different personalities depending on which direction you're traveling. On the outbound journey, it's a 1.9-mile descent with a 6.2% gradient that might seem like a gift until you realize you'll be climbing back up this same section later as a 3.7-mile wall averaging 9.9% grade. It's the kind of cruel twist that separates pretenders from champions in the race's final hours. Then there's Kevin's Gulch, which kicks off the real suffering just 6 miles into the race with its punishing 1.1 mile stretch at 10.1% grade. Think of it as Leadville's way of saying welcome to the party before things get really serious. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Or should I say, the absolute mountain of a man dominating the men's field. Keegan Swenson isn't just favoured to win. He's practically in a league of his own when it comes to high-altitude racing supremacy. We're talking about a 4-time defending champion who doesn't just win at Leadville. He owns the course record by such a wide margin, it's almost embarrassing for everyone else. Here's what makes Swenson's dominance even more impressive. While other riders have challenged him at lower altitude gravel races throughout this season, his high altitude performance remains absolutely untouchable. It raises an interesting question that might spark some debate. Is high altitude racing becoming too specialized, creating an unfair advantage for certain genetic gifts? The women's race, however, promises to deliver the kind of nail-biting drama that keeps us glued to our screens. Unlike the men's field, where Swenson seems to have established an almost insurmountable psychological advantage, the women's competition is shaping up as a proper battle royale between several legitimate contenders. Leading the charge is Melisa Rollins, last year's champion, who's been absolutely crushing high-altitude events this summer. Her victory streak includes dominant performances at SBT GRVL, Firecracker 50, and the Leadville stage race. A resume that screams, I'm ready for anything Leadville can throw at me. But here's where things get spicy. During the Leadville stage race, while Rollins claimed the overall victory, Kate Courtney managed to beat her on 2 individual stages. Courtney brings a completely different skill set to the table, fresh off a season competing in the Mountain Bike World Cup circuit. The question everyone's asking, can World Cup technical skills translate to Leadville's unique demands? Rounding out the women's field are some serious heavy hitters. Sofia Gomez Villafañe, a former Leadville winner who knows exactly what it takes to succeed at this altitude. Sarah Sturm, Cecily Decker and Lauren Stevens, all of whom bring their own unique strengths to what promises to be an absolutely fascinating battle. On the men's side, while Swenson might seem unbeatable, the fight for the remaining podium spots should provide plenty of entertainment. Seasoned Leadville veterans like Lachlan Morton, Alexei Vermeulen, Matt Beers, John Gaston and Russell Finsterwald will be scrapping for every position, each bringing years of high-altitude racing experience to the table. But here's the controversy that's got everyone talking, and this might be the most divisive topic in mountain biking right now: the great drop bar versus flat bar debate. With Leadville's minimal single-track mileage, the race has become ground zero for one of cycling's most heated equipment discussions. It all started innocently enough with Corey Wallace experimenting after the pandemic. But when Dylan Johnson brought the concept into the spotlight in 2023, it opened Pandora's box. Now, we're seeing full suspension mountain bikes fitted with drop bars becoming increasingly common. And the traditional mountain biking community is split right down the middle. Keegan Swenson himself added fuel to this fire when he piloted a drop bar Santa Cruz Blur to victory in 2024, with Russell Finsterwald joining him in the top 10 on similar equipment. The success of these setups has created a cascading effect that's got bike manufacturers scrambling to keep up with demand. The timing couldn't be better for this equipment revolution. Shimano's latest XT Di2 update now syncs perfectly with GRX drop bar shifters, while SAM athletes can also swap seamlessly between setups. This technological advancement has democratized the drop bar mountain bike concept, allowing riders to experiment and fine-tune their equipment choices like never before. But, and this is where things get really interesting, not every rider can take advantage of this trend. Athletes sponsored by mountain bikes with extremely long reach measurements might find themselves stuck with traditional setups, simply because stems can't be made short enough to compensate for the geometry differences. Meanwhile, road-oriented professionals who already struggle with technical handling might find drop bars amplify their disadvantages rather than solve them. For skilled mountain bikers, however, drop bar setups are becoming increasingly viable options with minimal downside. This has created a fascinating dynamic where equipment choice is becoming almost as strategic as training and tactics. The whole debate raises some thought-provoking questions that I'd love to hear your thoughts on. Are we witnessing natural evolution in cycling technology, or are we straying too far from mountain biking's roots? Is it fair that equipment advances might give some riders significant advantages over others? And perhaps most controversially, if drop bars prove definitively faster at Leadville, should the race consider creating separate categories? Regardless of where you stand on the equipment debate, there's no denying it's injected a massive dose of innovation and excitement into what was already one of cycling's most compelling events. Saturday's race will undoubtedly provide more data points in this ongoing experiment, and you can bet we'll be tracking every drop bar versus flat bar battle throughout the field. For those planning to follow along with this high-altitude drama, Leadville Trail 100 has adopted the same broadcast model that made Unbound 200 such compelling viewing. Lifetime, the race organisers will be providing comprehensive live stream coverage starting at 5:45 a.m. Mountain Time on the Lifetime Grand Prix YouTube channel. So what do you think? Is Leadville's evolution toward gravel-style racing a natural progression, or a betrayal of mountain biking traditions? Are drop bars the future of high-altitude racing, or just an expensive fad? And most importantly, can anyone possibly challenge Keegan Swenson's stranglehold on this race? Or are we witnessing the emergence of a true high-altitude racing legend? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I have a feeling this one's going to generate some passionate debate.